Welcome back to Death by Bunjie. In this episode, me, Bunjie Jr., Dad, and Bunjie all pile into the car together to go to Maryland. Dad's already gone to Maryland a whole bunch of times, and he's told me all sorts of stories from down there, and I'm really excited.
This is in fact the 8th hunting season, the 8th year in a row that I have gone to Maryland at one point in the season or another. You've seen me go down there and shoot does and bucks, and you've seen me hunt Sika deer a couple of times. Had a great time down there in the old line state with Bunjie. Genevieve going to Maryland with me was always kind of a dream of mine in the back of my mind. I never really thought that it would happen, at least not her accompanying me down there as a hunter. She's gone to the woods with me many, many times, but actually going down there and hunting herself, that gets me pretty excited.
I'm a little bit nervous because I do have one deer experience already, but that was out of a blind. And in Maryland, you just hunt out of tree stands pretty much. And I've never actually hunted out of a tree stand before.
That can present some challenges as well. So as a dad, as the father of a second-generation crossbow hunter, I'm a little nervous. I do have some butterflies about this trip, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a whole new experience for her. How is she going to be handling hunting alone, hunting from a tree stand? We practiced a scent-free regimen. You've heard me talk about that here on Death by Bunjie, and you've seen videos from other friends of Bunjie on that topic here on this channel. Very good information. Kind of hard to stay scent-free when you're traveling because you're in a hotel room and you're kind of at the mercy of the hotel and how perfumey they choose to make the room that you're staying in. There's very little you can do about that, but we did take scent-free showers. We did the best we could do.
And while I was down there, a spike winded me, so that's unfortunate. I'm really excited because I'm trying out something new this time. In Maryland, you can hunt over bait, and back home we can't do that. All I can do back home is hunt under an apple tree with a pile of apples underneath.
Now I want to make one thing clear. When I go to Maryland, I do not bait deer. The guide does. He's the one that puts out the corn, sets up these tree stands. We really don't have much say about playing the wind, although the guide takes that into account when he chooses a stand for us for the day, and he'll certainly offer information about that. But the bait is already there, the corn is already there, the location of the corn, the manner in which the corn is laid upon the forest floor is already chosen for us.
The guide must not have been very confident in my shooting ability because the corn pile is only 10 yards away from the stand.
The tree stand that I was in, the guide had done a really good job baiting black squirrels. I have never in my life seen so many black squirrels.
But I got up there first thing in the morning, it was pitch black out, and as I was sitting there, I could hear some deer running around behind me, and it was so dark I couldn't film it, but I could see the white of the deer tails as they're walking up and behind me and around past me. I didn't really think that I had spooked them because they had just kind of wandered around, but I was pretty excited because there's a lot of deer in Maryland, and there's also a chance that those same deer could come back. Another thing I like is that there's cell service here, so even though Dad and I aren't anywhere close, he's on another tree stand a couple hundred yards behind me, we could text back and forth.
She is sending me some messages that at least put my mind at ease. She's safely in the tree stand. She feels comfortable. And based on the tone of her messages, it sounds like she's having a good time.
And as the sun comes up, I realize there's a really nice shooting lane, but it's for vertical bow hunters who stand up. And as a crossbow hunter, I plan on sitting down. So actually the shooting lane is too high up for me. So I can see the corn pile, but there wasn't too much action in the morning, so Dad and I decided to pack it up and go out for lunch. I take my arrow out of my crossbow and I lower it down with the rope that Dad's given me. And as soon as I get on the ground, I turn around and there's the biggest bodied deer I've ever seen standing 20 yards away from me just looking at me. And I wish I could have got it on video because it was the most ridiculous looking spike I've ever seen. The horns on it were at least a foot long. So he's looking for does, he runs off with his nose to the ground. Whatever, I just leave. I come back after lunch and I start thinking about the morning, how even if that spike did come to the corn pile, I might not have been able to shoot him. So when I set back up after lunch, I start using my rangefinder on the different trees off to my right, because off to my left there's a bunch of trees with the branches in the way, and off to the right it's more open. So I start measuring to different gaps in between the trees to sort of figure out how far those yardages are. All of a sudden, I hear the leaves start to rustle underneath my stand. So I turn a little bit and I'm looking out of the corner of my eye, and there's a doe coming up the path where they came up this morning. And she sort of wanders around, and I get a look at her, and these deer are small compared to back home. And she goes up to this corn pile. And I would have a good 10-yard shot if I was standing up, but I don't feel comfortable standing up because this is my second deer hunt ever. So she's eating the corn, and I can hear her munching on it, and I get about 20 minutes of footage of this deer just eating there, standing there. And she starts to turn to leave towards those trees that I was rangefinding earlier. And as she's leaving, I turn the crossbow and I pivot as quiet as I can so that I'm facing her. And eventually she turns broadside, and Bunjie Jr. and I, we're gonna let her rip.
Something sweeter, out of the strong, something to eat. There's a time to render unto Caesar. There's a time to live free or kill.
I'm not actually as worried as I was with my buck. With my buck, I was a little bit worried because he didn't kick when he ran, and most of the good like heart shots or whatever I've seen on TV, the deer kick with their back legs as they run. In my doe, she does kick with her back legs as she runs off, so I feel really good about that shot. So I text my dad, my hands are shaking, I'm so excited.
Now I gotta decide, do I sit here and sort of get my money's worth, wait and see if a deer comes into my location, maybe I get a shot, or I can get down and go help my daughter track her first deer. For me, this is a no-brainer. I'm packing up my gear, and Bunjie and I are gonna go help Genevieve track her first out-of-state deer.
Way back there. And that's what I like to call threading the needle.
Blind me and force me to work for you. Just lead me to the pillars and I'll bring you to your doom. Out of the eater, something sweeter. Out of the strong, something to eat. There's a time to render unto Caesar. There's a time to live free or kill. Out of the eater, something for dinner. Out of the strong, something sweet. There's a time to render unto Caesar. There's a time to live free or kill.
I've mentioned this before on Death by Bunjie. I think it's good, especially for newer crossbow hunters, to track every deer that you get an opportunity to track. Even if you know where the deer is, even if you saw it go down on camera, not a bad idea still to build those skills.
And it turns out it was a perfect heart shot. And that's what I like to call a tri-pan sandwich, you know, because I used the tri-pan broadhead.
Genevieve is now up 2-0. I'm 0 deer on the year. Genevieve has 2 deer under her belt. She's got 1 buck and 1 doe, 1 deer in Maryland, 1 deer in Pennsylvania. I still have yet to shoot a deer. Bunjie has yet to take a deer in the 2020 crossbow season. What are we going to do about that? Well, we're going to keep plugging away, and there is more to come. There's more to this Maryland story here on Death by Bunjie.
I had a great time in Maryland this year, and I definitely want to go back next year. But there's still more to come, so stay tuned. And until next time, all hail Bunjie Jr.
Second state is number 1 in my
And here is the skull from that little doe.